Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it, especially on the busy streets of downtown where thousands of people pass by each day, lost in their own worlds. Among them was a humble figure, a father in his mid-50s, his weathered face telling stories of hardship, sitting quietly on the cold pavement with a small cardboard sign. But what caught most people's attention wasn't his tattered clothes or his gentle demeanor. It was the little girl beside him, no more than 7 years old, always clutching a worn-out notebook and a stubby pencil. They were an unlikely pair on these city streets. While other kids her age rushed to school with colorful backpacks and fresh lunches, this little girl spent her mornings watching the world go by, occasionally sketching in her notebook or practicing her reading with discarded newspapers. Her father had taught her everything he knew, determined that their circumstances wouldn't rob her of an education. Their story began 3 years ago when a series of unfortunate events, a lost job, mounting medical bills, and a house foreclosure, pushed them onto the streets. Yet through it all, their bond remained unbreakable. The father would often go hungry, saving whatever food he could get for his daughter. At night, they'd huddle together in their small tent behind the old bookstore, where he'd whisper stories of better days to come. The local community knew them well. The coffee shop owner would occasionally slip them a warm drink on cold mornings. The librarian would save damaged books that were meant to be discarded, knowing how much the little girl loved to read. But despite these small kindnesses, their situation seemed unchangeable. Until that rainy Tuesday morning in October. It started like any other day. The morning crowd hurried past, umbrellas clutched tight against the drizzle. The father and daughter sat under their usual spot, protected by the building's overhang, when something caught the girl's attention. She tugged at her father's sleeve, pointing excitedly at something across the street. That moment would trigger a chain of events that neither of them could have anticipated. What happened next would not only challenge our assumptions about fate and human kindness, but would also remind us that sometimes the most profound changes come from the most unexpected places. As the rain continued to fall, neither the father nor his daughter realized that their lives were about to transform in ways they couldn't imagine. The sight that caught the little girl's eye that morning would prove to be more than just another passing moment in their daily routine. It would become the catalyst for a story that would touch hearts and change lives, not just theirs, but those of countless others in our community. But perhaps what makes this story truly remarkable isn't just the event itself, but the ripple effect it created. It shows us how a single moment of connection can bridge the gaps between worlds that seem so far apart. While they sat there that morning, unaware of what was about to unfold, destiny was quietly turning the page to a new chapter in their lives. As we delve deeper into their story, we'll discover how this unexpected moment not only changed their immediate circumstances, but also sparked a movement that would touch our entire community. It's a reminder that behind every person we pass on the street, there's a story waiting to be heard, a life waiting to be transformed. What happened next would shake our community to its core and remind us all of the extraordinary power of human connection. But before we reveal that pivotal moment, let's take a step back and understand the full scope of what was about to unfold on that rainy Tuesday morning. Across the street that morning, through the curtain of rain, stood a small art gallery. Its windows displayed vibrant paintings that had caught the little girl's attention. But it wasn't just the artwork that made her eyes light up. It was the familiar sketch displayed in the window, one that looked remarkably similar to the drawings she'd been creating in her worn notebook over the past few months. The gallery owner, a kind-faced woman in her early 60s, had been watching the father and daughter for weeks from her window. She'd noticed how the little girl would spend hours drawing in her notebook, completely lost in her own world of creativity. What the father and daughter didn't know was that she had been collecting the drawings the little girl would sometimes leave behind, beautiful sketches of birds, flowers, and people passing by, all drawn with remarkable detail for someone so young. That morning, the gallery owner had made a decision. She'd framed one of the found drawings and placed it in her window, hoping its creator would notice. As she watched the little girl's reaction from inside, she couldn't help but smile at the pure joy and confusion on the child's face. But this was just the beginning of her plan. The father, noticing his daughter's excitement, squinted through the rain at the familiar drawing. For the first time in months, a spark of hope flickered in his eyes. He remembered how his daughter's mother, before her passing, had been an artist herself. The talent had clearly passed down, surviving even through their hardest times. Meanwhile, word about the mysterious young artist had been spreading through the local art community. The gallery owner had been quietly showing the collection of found drawings to her regular customers, and many had been moved by the raw talent and emotional depth captured in these simple sketches. Some even offered to purchase them, but the gallery owner had other plans. What the father and daughter didn't realize was that their story had already touched many hearts in the community. The barista who gave them warm drinks had shared their story with her customers. The librarian had spoken about the little girl's love for learning with local teachers. The pieces of their story were slowly coming together, creating a network of people who wanted to help but weren't sure how. That rainy morning was about to bring all these threads together. As the father and daughter sat contemplating the displayed artwork, they didn't notice the small crowd gathering in the gallery. Regular customers, local artists, and community members who had heard their story were all there, drawn together by something larger than themselves. The gallery owner stood among them, holding a folder filled with more than just the little girl's drawings. Inside were documents, plans, and possibilities that could change everything. But she knew timing was crucial. The community's response needed to be more than just temporary aid. It had to be something sustainable, something that would give both father and daughter a chance at a new life. As the rain continued to fall, more people began to notice the drawing in the window. Passers-by stopped, drawn in by its simple beauty and the story behind it. Some recognized the father and daughter from their daily commute, and for the first time really saw them, not as fixtures of the street, but as people with dreams, talents, and untold potential. The gallery owner took a deep breath and walked toward her door. She was about to step outside and cross the street, carrying with her the hopes of an entire community. But what she was about to propose would require more than just goodwill. It would challenge everyone involved to think differently about community, opportunity, and the power of art to transform lives. As the gallery owner stepped out into the rain, umbrella in hand, she felt the weight of the moment. Every step across the street seemed to echo with possibility. Behind her, the gallery windows glowed warmly, filled with faces of community members who had gathered to witness what was about to unfold. The father noticed her approach and instinctively drew his daughter closer, years of street life having taught him to be cautious of unexpected attention. But the little girl's eyes remained fixed on her drawing in the gallery window, her small fingers tracing its outline in the air. The rain had begun to ease, as if nature itself was holding its breath for what was about to happen. The gallery owner stopped a few feet away, her kind smile breaking through the morning gloom. "I believe this belongs to you," she said softly, pulling out a familiar drawing from her folder, one of dozens the little girl had left behind. The child's eyes widened with recognition, but it was her father's reaction that caught everyone's attention. For the first time in years, tears welled up in his eyes as he looked at his daughter's artwork, professionally matted and preserved. What happened next would set in motion a series of events that would ripple through the entire community. The gallery owner began sharing the stories she collected, how local artists had been moved by the little girl's raw talent, how art collectors had inquired about the mysterious young artist's work, and how teachers from the nearby school had expressed interest in nurturing this budding talent. But the folder she held contained more than just praise and possibilities. Inside was a proposal that had taken weeks to prepare, involving dozens of community members, local businesses, and educational institutions. Each page represented a different piece of the puzzle, carefully crafted to transform not just two lives, but to demonstrate the power of community action. The father listened intently, his weathered face showing a mix of hope and disbelief. His daughter, sensing the importance of the moment, clutched her notebook tighter. Around them, a small crowd had begun to gather, familiar faces from their daily life on the street. The coffee shop owner who had given them warm drinks, the librarian who had saved books, the businessman who always dropped extra change in their cup. The gallery owner's voice trembled slightly as she reached the most crucial part of her proposal. The community had come together in ways nobody had expected, but would it be enough? Would this father, who had faced so much hardship, be willing to trust again? Would this little girl, who had known nothing but life on the streets, Be ready for such a dramatic change." As she spoke, more people emerged from the gallery, each carrying a piece of the larger plan. Among them was a local art teacher, holding a brand new sketchbook and professional art supplies. Behind her, a housing coordinator clutched documents that could change everything. The crowd held their breath, watching as the father's expression shifted between confusion, hope, and fear. The little girl, still focused on her framed drawing in the gallery window, tugged at her father's sleeve and whispered something in his ear. Whatever she said made him straighten his shoulders, as if years of burden were suddenly lighter. But before he could respond to the gallery owner's proposal, something unexpected happened, something that would prove to be the true turning point in their story. Just as the father opened his mouth to speak, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The crowd parted as a well-dressed elderly man stepped out, his presence commanding immediate attention. The gallery owner's eyes widened in recognition. It was one of the city's most respected art collectors, someone who rarely made public appearances, but whose influence in the art world was legendary. The collector had heard about the young artist through whispers of the art community, but what truly drew him here wasn't just the drawings. 25 years ago, he had discovered another talented street artist, someone whose work had touched his heart in the same way. That artist, he would soon reveal, was the little girl's mother. In his hand, he clutched a familiar sketchbook, one that contained the mother's earliest works, preserved all these years. The father's legs weakened at the sight of the book. He recognized it immediately. The same book his wife had carried everywhere before illness took her away. He had been forced to sell most of their possessions during her hospital stays, and this sketchbook had been among them. He had never told his daughter about her mother's artistic talent, believing that some dreams were too painful to share when survival was their daily struggle. The collector's voice broke through the hushed silence as he explained how he'd been searching for this family for months. The similarity between the mother's old sketches and the daughter's recent drawings had caught his attention during a private gallery viewing, but finding them had proved challenging, until social media began buzzing about the mysterious young artist whose work had appeared in the gallery window. As the collector opened the sketchbook, gasps rippled through the crowd. The little girl's recent drawings, displayed in the gallery window, were almost mirror images of her mother's work from decades ago. The same style, the same perspective, the same ability to capture human emotion in simple lines. It was as if her mother's talent had been reborn, flowing through time to find expression in her daughter's hands. But this discovery brought with it a new complication. The collector's presence had attracted media attention, and news vans were already pulling up to the scene. The father, who had spent years trying to stay invisible, now faced the prospect of sudden publicity. His daughter's talent could open doors, but it could also expose them to the very system they had been avoiding. The gallery owner sensed his hesitation and stepped closer, her voice low and reassuring. The plan she had prepared included provisions for privacy, for protection, for a gradual transition that would respect their dignity. But now, with cameras appearing and reporters gathering, they needed to make a decision quickly. The little girl, seemingly unaffected by the growing chaos around her, had taken out her notebook and begun to draw. Her small hands moved swiftly across the paper, capturing the intense moment unfolding before her. The crowd watched in amazement as she worked, her focus absolute, her talent undeniable. The father looked down at his daughter, then at the sketchbook containing her mother's art, and finally at the growing crowd of supporters and media. In that moment, he faced the hardest decision of his life, between maintaining the invisible existence they'd known and stepping into a spotlight that could either save or overwhelm them. What he didn't realize was that fate had one more surprise in store, one that would force his hand in an unexpected way. In that crucial moment, as cameras flashed and the crowd waited in anticipation, the little girl completed her drawing and held it up for everyone to see. It wasn't just another sketch. It was a portrait of the entire scene unfolding around them, captured with stunning detail. But what caught everyone's attention was the additional figure she had drawn in the corner. A woman with a gentle smile, holding an artist's brush, watching over the scene. Without ever having seen a photo of her mother, she had drawn her perfectly. The father's hands trembled as he took the drawing. The collector, looking over his shoulder, pulled out an old photograph from the sketchbook. The resemblance was uncanny. The same smile, the same gentle eyes that the little girl had somehow known to draw. The crowd fell silent, witnessing a moment that transcended their understanding. But it was what happened next that truly changed everything. An elderly woman, who had been quietly watching from the gallery doorway, stepped forward. She introduced herself as the former dean of the city's prestigious art school and revealed that 20 years ago she had offered a full scholarship to a talented young artist, the little girl's mother, who had disappeared before accepting it. That scholarship, she announced, was still valid and could now be held in trust for her daughter. The father, overwhelmed by these revelations, finally found his voice. He shared how he had promised his wife on her final day that he would protect their daughter's future, but circumstances had forced them into survival mode. He had never imagined that his wife's artistic legacy would become their salvation. The gallery owner, seizing the moment, unveiled the full scope of the community's plan. Local businesses had pledged support for immediate housing and necessities. The art school offered not only future education for the daughter, but also a job for the father as a campus maintenance supervisor, a position that came with housing on school grounds. The gallery would host an exhibition of both mother and daughter's artwork, with proceeds going into a trust fund for the child's future. Just as hope seemed complete, the unexpected twist emerged. The collector made one final revelation. The little girl's mother had left behind a series of unopened letters, each dated for her daughter's future birthdays. These letters, filled with motherly wisdom and artistic guidance, had been safeguarded all these years. The first one was dated for today, the little girl's 8th birthday. As the father read the letter aloud, his voice breaking with emotion, the cameras stopped rolling and reporters lowered their notepads. This wasn't just a story about overcoming homelessness or discovering talent. It was about the unbreakable bonds of family, the power of community, and the mysterious ways in which art connects souls across time. The little girl, still focused on her drawing, added one final detail: a bright sun breaking through the clouds above all the figures. As if on cue, the real clouds parted and sunlight streamed down on the gathered crowd. The father looked at his daughter, then at the gallery owner, the collector, and the community that had rallied around them. With tears in his eyes, he nodded, accepting not just help, but a chance to fulfill his promise to his wife and create a future worthy of their daughter's talents. That day marked not just the end of their life on the streets, but the beginning of something extraordinary. The little girl's art would go on to inspire thousands, and her story would remind people that sometimes the most beautiful masterpieces come from the most unexpected places. As father and daughter stepped into their new life, they carried with them not just hope for the future, but also the cherished memories of a mother whose artistic spirit had guided them home. 6 months later, the same gallery that once displayed a single mysterious drawing now showcased dozens of artworks. The exhibition, titled 3 Generations of Heart, featured the mother's preserved sketches, the daughter's evolving artwork, and something unexpected, new pieces created by the father, who had discovered his own artistic voice during art therapy sessions offered by the school. The little family's transformation touched more lives than anyone could have imagined. Their story inspired other communities to look differently at the people living on their streets, to see the hidden talents and untold stories behind each face. The father, now respected as the art school's maintenance supervisor, had started a weekend art program for homeless children, sharing his daughter's story of hope with others who needed it most. Their new home on the school campus became a warm gathering place for the community that had helped them. The coffee shop owner who had once secretly slipped them warm drinks now joined them for Sunday dinners. The librarian who had saved damaged books became the little girl's personal tutor, helping her catch up on years of missed education. Even the businessman who used to drop spare change now served on the board of a new foundation, created to help other talented children in difficult circumstances. The gallery owner's small act of displaying that first drawing had sparked a movement. Other galleries across the city began offering wall space to showcase artwork from homeless shelters and youth centers. The art collector, touched by how things had come full circle, established a scholarship fund in memory of the little girl's mother, supporting other street artists and pursuing their dreams. But perhaps the most beautiful transformation was in the relationships that bloomed. Every month, the father and daughter would open one of the mother's saved letters together, finding new connections and insights in her words. The daughter's artistic talent continued to flourish, but now it was nurtured with proper supplies, guidance, and most importantly, stability. Her drawings began to show not just the world she saw, but the world she dreamed of, one filled with hope, color, and possibility. The father, watching his daughter grow stronger and happier each day, finally found peace with the past. He realized that their journey, though difficult, had led them exactly where they needed to be. The promise he made to his wife had been fulfilled in ways he could never have imagined. As for the little girl, she never forgot her days on the street. Each morning, before heading to her classes, she would leave a small sketch on the community bulletin board, simple drawings that reminded everyone that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places. Her mother's letters, carefully preserved in a special box, continued to guide her artistic journey, creating a bridge between past and present. The story reached its final beautiful note 1 year later during the opening of a new wing at the art school. Named in honor of the little girl's mother, it was dedicated to providing art education to underprivileged children. As father and daughter cut the ribbon together, surrounded by the community that had become family, they knew that their story wasn't just about surviving. It was about how love, art, and compassion could transform lives. And so, what began with a simple drawing in a gallery window became a testament to the power of human connection and the endless possibilities that arise when we take the time to truly see each other. Their story continues to inspire others, reminding us that sometimes the most beautiful masterpieces of life are painted not with brushes and paint, but with kindness, hope, and the courage to believe in second chances.